Lots of people like babies. Lots of people entertain the idea of making a few of them at some point in their lives. However, not everyone wants to risk baby production every time they give in to their primal urges. People like giving in to said urges though, so what can be done? The answer, of course, is simple. Just use birth control. Birth control is not a bad thing. It's actually really good, let me explain. By definition, birth control is simply the regulation of when and how many children a person produces. Also known as contraception, birth control exists in many different forms, both through actions or artificial measures. Here are some of the most common methods in use today. The pill, implants, the patch, birth control shots, birth control sponges, vaginal rings, cervical caps, diaphragms, female condoms, male condoms, IUDs, outer course, spermicides, vasectomies, tubal ligations, breastfeeding, fertility awareness, withdrawal, and of course good old abstinence.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in the missionary position, don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it, promise? Okay, everybody take some rubbers.
Contrary to popular belief, various methods of contraception have existed for thousands of years. Archaeological evidence leads us to believe that artificial methods such as animal gut condoms have existed as far back as 3000 BC. Ancient Egyptian manuscripts dating back to 1500 BC even describe mixtures of fruit, herbs, and honey smeared onto linen sheaths to be used as spermicides. This is a nice history lesson. What does that have to do with birth control being good, you may ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, one major environmental issue today is overpopulation. Overpopulation is when the population of a species exceeds the carrying capacity of an ecosystem. It would be like what would happen if there was a colony of rabbits in a forest where there were no predators. With nothing to check their population growth, the rabbits would breed and breed and breed until they ended up eating all the food in the area. What comes next would not only be mass starvation among the rabbits, but an imbalance in the whole local ecosystem. Once the excess rabbits are dead or a predator is introduced to the forest, however, the rabbit population will stabilize and the ecosystem will be restored. Unfortunately, this doesn't quite work for humans. We no longer have any natural predators, but letting people starve and forcibly controlling the population has historically proven itself to be a horrible, horrible idea. Unlike animals, people are actually very concerned when other people start dying en masse. That's why, as a species, we owe it to ourselves and to the world to keep our numbers down before they even have a chance to increase, hence birth control. The concept of overpopulation is controversial though. Here's what some people tend to think about overpopulation.
The idea of overpopulation is not accurate because really the entire population of the world, if they were stood shoulder to shoulder, could fit in the city limits of Jacksonville.
The problem with that quote-unquote logic is not that there isn't enough room on the planet to fit dozens of billions of people, it's that there isn't enough room on the planet to sustain dozens of billions of people. Let's look at it this way. Of the 57 million square miles of land on Earth, about 24.5 million of that is arable. That's about 15.7 billion acres, so that gives every human being alive at the moment a little over 2 acres of land just for themselves. That's about the same amount of land needed to grow enough crops to sustain one adult for a year. On top of that, there's no room for roads, schools, hospitals, or shops due to a lack of space, so all these farms would have to be completely self-sufficient. Needless to say, this is a mainly vegetarian society, since there wouldn't be enough room to pasture cows or pigs. Since there's no room for animals, we'd still need to rely on mechanical transportation, but who will go drill for oil? On that note, the farms need fuel too, as well as tools. But if everyone is trying to work the land, there wouldn't be anyone available to make any. We could always produce more people to do that, and that would be easy in a world without birth control. But how will they eat when there's no more land to farm? If the 2-acre allotments can't be divided any further, people would starve. Without modern medicine, the death rate would catch up, which would hopefully clear up some space for the population growth. I could go on for hours, but you see where I'm going for this? We'd be headed back to the Dark Ages. Also, the average American requires the use of about 12 acres of land per year to maintain a decent standard of living. That's 6 times what each person in our little allotment society was using just to survive. For everyone to be able to live at the same standard as the average American at some point in the future, which is a pretty good standard when you see how most people are living, we will need to slow down the population as much as possible through, of course, birth control. That way we won't have to shove the entire human population into Jacksonville, Florida, and avoid situations like this. But I digress. Another thing people who are against birth control like to say is that people should only have sex if they are willing to have a baby. They think that no matter what, sex should be punished, rewarded with a child. This is, of course, nonsense. Everyone knows and accepts that sex comes with the possibility of pregnancy. But look at it this way. Lots of people drive or ride in cars, and sometimes accidents happen. Everyone knows that. However, people generally don't want to die when they get into a vehicle. That's why they drive carefully and wear seatbelts, just like how people use birth control to practice safe sex and prevent unwanted pregnancy. So remember, saying sexually active people shouldn't have contraceptives is like saying cars shouldn't have seatbelts. Now, nobody should be forced to use birth control if they don't want to. It's just very highly recommended unless you want babies or STIs. Sometimes certain kinds of birth control can cause problems though. Most complaints come from women who take oral contraceptives, as side effects often include spotting between periods, nausea, headaches, mood swings, decreased sexual libido, and weight gain. This is due to the fact that most birth control pills contain hormones that may conflict with the ones already in the body. This can easily be remedied by either taking another kind of pill with different hormones, or else using another method like the ring or an IUD. On the other hand, if women take the right kind of pill, they may enjoy positive side effects such as a lighter, shorter, or less frequent period, reduced menstrual cramps, less intense premenstrual syndrome, and decreased acne. In fact, birth control pills are sometimes prescribed just to fight these symptoms. Generally, the pill just makes being a woman a heck of a lot easier. Men have fewer options for manufactured birth control. All they really have is condoms. That's about it. But wait, some men don't like condoms. Why not? It keeps them safe from disease and unwanted fatherhood. What could possibly be the problem? First of all, condoms are not that expensive. They're less than $1 each. Sometimes you can even get them for free at clinics. Let's be honest guys, for all the money you spent while you were dating her, and considering how much it costs to raise a child or even pay for an abortion, I think you could spare a few dollars for a box of rubbers. Now, if being uncomfortable during sex is your main qualm with condom usage, there are many solutions for that. Condoms are designed to cater to a variety of comfort levels, except this one, so it's just a matter of finding the one that's the best fit. Speaking of the best fit, you aren't impressing anyone by saying you can't wear condoms because they don't fit on you. They're available in many different sizes, often come in a one-size-fits-all option, and can stretch large enough to cover an entire, baby. However, condoms are not always 100% effective.
They should put that on the box!
Evidently they do.
What?
Thankfully, science marches on and has come up with a better solution than condoms or vasectomies. A new method of male birth control has been developed in India, the RISUG shot. Short for Reversible Inhibition of Sperm Under Guidance, RISUG involves injecting a polymer into the vas deferens, the tube that carries sperm from the testes to the urethra. There it forms a positively charged lining that will rupture the negatively charged tails of sperm, killing them. The polymer lasts up to 10 years with a 100% success rate, is easily reversible with another injection, has no side effects besides temporary painless swelling, and costs less than the syringe that injects it. If all goes well, it could become widely available in the States by 2015. That is, if some people even allow it. I am fully aware of those who believe that nobody should use birth control, at all, whatsoever. As I've said, birth control is a smart but personal choice, so who would ever think they have the authority to say that nobody should be allowed birth control if they want? Oh yeah, that's right, these lovely folks. Many religious people have spoken out against birth control because it interferes with God's plan, or promotes promiscuity, or even kills babies? Okay, first of all, the God's plan argument is very subjective. If that would involve getting into a religious debate, that would keep us here all day. Second, birth control doesn't promote promiscuity. Like I said before in my seatbelt analogy, providing a person with a means of protecting themselves isn't the same as allowing them to deliberately put themselves in risky situations. Besides, how promiscuous a person is really nobody's business as long as they're honest and careful. Third, contraception does not equal abortion. Get that through your heads. Again, we can debate until the cows come home over whether or not abortion technically kills babies, but that definitely isn't what birth control does. While abortion ends a pregnancy, using contraception stops pregnancy from happening in the first place. Most methods of birth control only immobilize or disable sex cells. Sex cells, sperm and eggs, as in little packages of chromosomes. Not embryos, not fetuses, not actual babies, sex cells. You aren't hurting anyone by allowing people free use of birth control. In fact, you're helping prevent unplanned pregnancies, therefore reducing the number of abortions and letting more couples have babies when they're ready. But that's the beauty of birth control. Any way you look at it, it improves life. I'm not saying you must go out and use it, but please don't tell someone that they can't. After all, you wouldn't want this. Now would you? Right, so, as I've said, birth control is good.